Good afternoon to each and everyone who's watching this video, most especially to my instructor, Mrs. Chrissy Joy, to Miss Bonte. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm going to teaching and task report about 3 elements of fire and pyrolysis. The fuel, heat, and oxygen. The fourth element, which is known as the tetrahedron of fire, is a transition of the triangular figure into a four-sided solid geometric figure resembling a pyramid and serve as the base representing the chemical chain reaction. So the tetrahedron of fire can be described as a pyramid, which is a solid having 4 plane faces. So all of these elements, fuel, heat, and oxygen, and chemical chain reaction should be present in order to maintain fire. So if there is an absence of one of these elements, there is no fire at all. So fuel. Fuel is a reducing agent. It refers to any material can be oxidized or a reducing agent, which has a reference to a fuel's ability to reduce an oxidizing agent. So fuel is called a reducing agent since when it is burned, it provides heat or power, wherein it tends to bring about the reduction by being oxidized and losing its electrons. So it is called a reducing agent since when the fuel was burned, it produces power or heat, wherein it is being oxidized or it loses its electrons. That is why it is called a reducing agent. So what are the fuel sources? First, solid. Solid is molecules are closely packed. So solid, it is a firm or stable in shape and has a definite shape and volume. So solid, it is closely packed and it has a definite shape and volume. So most common example of solid is an iron bar. Next, common types of solid. A. Bulky. Bulky, these have a great volume or a big and in an inconvenient way. So example of bulky is a thick yarn. So a thick roll of yarn. Next, coal. Coal is a brownish black sedimentary rock, mostly carbon with variable amounts other elements such as sulfur, oxygen, and nitrogen. So coal was primarily used upon the generation of electric power plants. Next, wood. Wood is a porous fibrous structural tissue found in the stems and roots of trees. So wood is found in the branches or trees or stems of trees, rather, wherein it is widely used upon making houses or even papers that is used in office or school works. Next, wax. Wax is a diverse class of organic compounds that are malleable or capable of being easily changed or stretched and can be bent into different shapes. So an example of wax is the paraffin wax or a paraffin candle, which is widely used upon the bypass operations. Next, grease. A solid lubricant formed as a dispersion of thickening agent in a liquid lubricants. So for instance, the usage of grease upon the bearings of an engine or of a vehicle rather, or such as motorcycles. So by the use of grease, the bearings of the motorcycles could run smoothly because there is the presence of grease since it is make it soft. And next, finely divided. So finely divided means in this state of solid, the solid particles is in a powder or in pellet form. So in this state of solid, so when it is say that it is finely divided, the presence or the appearance of a solid is in a powder form or in a pellet form. Next, plastic. Plastic is a synthetic material made from wide range of organic polymers such as polyethylene, PVC, or nylon. So, for example, an example of plastic is the plastic containers, plastic bottles that we are using in our daily basis. Next, paper. Paper is the thin sheet material produced by woods. So, this manila paper, this is a concrete example of a paper which is used in school works and even in office works. Next, cork. Cork is a buoyant light brown substance obtained from the outer layer of the cork oak. So, have you ever seen a bottle of a vinegar? So, in the mouth of the bottle of vinegar, there is a so-called seal or a stopper. So, that seal or stopper is called the oak, or the cork rather. So, it is used as a sealant or a stopper so that the liquid substance inside could not leak. Next, leather. Leather is a material made from the skin of an animal by tanning or in a similar process. So, an example of leather is the leather jackets, leather pants, and even leather shoes. So, it is being made from the skins of an animal. Next, dust. Dust is made of fine particles of solid matter. So, dust is a small particles being dropped from a certain object being cut or being welded. So, so the sawdust was the small particles being dropped when we cut an iron. Next, sugar. Sugar has close packing constituent particles and have its own volume and shape. So, for instance, the usage of sugar when we drink coffee or to make it sweeter. So, sugar was widely used upon making flavorings and food production. Next, grain. Small hard dry seed with or without an attached full of fruit layer. So it is commonly used for food production also, and such as wheat, rice, oats, cornmeal, and cereal grains. So next, common types of gases. So the common types of gases are natural gas. So natural gas, also referred to as fossil gas. It is naturally occurring hydrocarbon mixture and has a large amount of methane. So an example of natural gas are ethane, butane, propane, and which are present in a natural gas. Propane. Propane is a flammable hydrocarbon that is liquefied through pressurization and commonly used in heating, cooking, like for instance the LPG that we are used for cooking. So an example of propane is the LPG which we are used to cook food. Next, butane. Butane is a hydrocarbon and highly flammable, colorless, odorless, and easily liquefied gas. So, butane, have you ever seen portable gas stove? So, the butane supports the portable gas stove in order to produce fire. Next, hydrogen. Hydrogen is the most abundant chemical substance in the universe. So, hydrogen is the most abundant element of the universe which the humankind are using, such as water for drinking purposes. Next, acetylene. It is a colorless gas that is usually used as a fuel and a chemical building block. So the usage of acetylene it is applied most commonly in fabrication industries upon cutting, welding, or spot heating of different materials such as iron. Number 6, carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a colorless and odorless gas that is slightly less dense than air. So, carbon monoxide is a dangerous type of gas because it is dangerous of the health of the human being. Next, the common types of liquids. So, the common types of liquids first is the gasoline. So, the gasoline is a temperament petroleum-derived flammable liquid that is used primarily as fuel to the most part ignited internal combustion engines. So, this gasoline was really applicable upon the engines of the vehicles to make it run or to make it move. So the gasoline supports the moving of an object such as a vehicle. Next, kerosene. A low viscosity or clear liquid formed from hydrocarbons, commonly used as a fuel such as in lamps. And even it is used for jet engines. So kerosene most commonly used upon making fire in oil lamp. So it supports the fire in the oil lamp. So that is the usage of kerosene. But kerosene also was also used for jet engines and even solvent for grease and insecticides. So next, turpentine, a fluid contained by an distillation of flesh harvested from living trees such as pines, and it is used also for flavoring ingredients. So turpentine was also applicable upon ingredients and even perfumes, cleaning agents, and fragrance. Next, alcohol. So it is a liquid produced by fermentation which is present on alcoholic drinks such as beers and wines. So alcohol can be an isopropyl alcohol and ethyl alcohol. So if we say ethyl alcohol, that is an alcohol that was present in the drinking drinking, such as beers, wine, and wine. While isopropyl alcohol, so if we say isopropyl, it is used for toxic injection, such as cleaning bacteria and viruses. So that is the distinction between the two. Next, cod liver oil. Cod liver oil is a dietary supplement derived from liver of cod fish. So, cod liver oil contains nutrients, that is food supplementary nutrients that brings benefits to us human beings in our health. Next, paint. Paint, any pigmented liquid cover of the surface as decoration or protection. So an example of paint is this, a green paint. So it serves as a decorative and even a protection to the walls. So paint could be an oil base or a water base. Next, varnish. Varnish is a clear temperament hard protective coating or film. It is usually a yellowish shade. So have you ever seen a furniture? So varnish was really applicable to furniture upon making it shiny or appear in a appearance of yellowish color of a furniture. So that is the use of varnish. Next, lacquer. It is a special liquid which is painted or in wood or metal. So the uses of lacquer also was to produce shiny finishes. So it is also called a top coat. I mean, for instance, the cover of motorcycles. So by means of putting a lacquer, it produces shiny surfaces to make it shiny. Next, olive oil. A liquid that obtained from olives or a natural oil extracted from olives, which is commonly used for frying foods and even in cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, soaps, and oil lamps. So olive oil comes from the natural or extracted from olives. So the uses of olive oil can be in food production and even cosmetics and pharmaceuticals, soaps, or even oil lamps. Next, oxygen. Oxygen explains how some material can be born in an oxygen-free atmosphere. So most commonly example of oxygen is the very fresh air that we breathe. Next, heat. Heat is the transfer of kinetic energy from one medium or object to another. So heat is a type of energy in disorder, while temperature is a measure of the degree of that disorder. So the heat is a transfer of kinetic energy from one object to another. So upon touching a certain object, when it is heated, you can feel the presence of the transfer of heat from one object to another. Next, chemical chain reaction refers to the vapor of gases distilled during the process of burning of material carried out into the flame. So the chemical chain reaction is a series of chemical reactions where the products of the reaction contribute to the reactants of another reaction. So chemical chain reaction exists when there is a reaction being portrayed of a certain object. So for instance, the burning of candles. So if we burn the candles, when it is burned in a couple of minutes, it is being melted and there is a liquid substance going down. So the such reaction of that material, of that candle rather, is the so-called chemical reaction because as time passes by, when it is heated or when it is contain high temperature, the composition of the candle or the candle itself melted. So that is upon being melted, that is the so-called chemical chain reaction. Next, combustion reaction process. It causes pyrolysis of vaporization of solid and liquid fuels and the production of ignitable vapors of gases. So the combustion reaction process is a clerical process in which a substance reacts rapidly with oxygen and gives off heat. So the combustion reaction occurs when a substance reacts with oxygen. So for example, the combustion engines of the motorcycles. So there is a combustion process wherein the oxygen was being burned or the fuel was being burned. So by the use of fuel such as gasoline, there is a combustion process wherein the the fuel or gasoline itself, as an example, was being burned. So that is the combustion process of the engines of motorcycles. So because of combustion, the motorcycle was moving, or the vehicle was moving, or it helps the vehicles to move. So that is the idea of the combustion reaction process. And another example also of combustion reaction process is the methane burns in oxygen when it releases carbon dioxide and water. So other example also was burning of the wood or coal for the household purposes, burning of petrol or diesel for using vehicles like car and motorcycles. So that is the idea of the combustion reaction process. Next, pyrolysis, the chemical process whereby fire consumes the most solid part of the fuel. Temperatures also in the absence of oxygen. So pyrolysis is the heating of an organic material in the absence of oxygen. So because there is no oxygen present, the material does not combust but the chemical compounds itself. So for instance, the burning of wood. So upon burning of wood, since there is no oxygen being present in the wood, so the fire most consumes of the solid part of the wood. So the fire consumes the most solid part of the wood since there is no oxygen present. So the wood was easily burned because there is no oxygen at all.